Hi, I'm Carla Aerobic. I'm a slow wine contributor, and I am talking with Elk Cove Vineyards today, Adam Campbell. Adam, welcome. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you, Carla. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Well, I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you. Do you have any questions before we get started?
No, I think I'm fine.
Okay, great. Well, what I thought is I'd go through these questions that they want me to ask you, and then that will lead into the actual wine themselves, and then we can talk about each of these, your selections towards the end. Does that work?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So this is a really unusual time that we're in. How have you as a winery been dealing with all of the kind of upheaval, uncertainty, change?
Well, obviously, these are very different. We'll certainly always remember the 2020 vintage here. I was kind of reflecting though, compared to, our friends in the restaurant world, we just feel really fortunate. We've been able to pivot some of our sales to mail order and e-commerce, which has been great. And I guess, things are more the same than they are different, mostly because, with us farming 400 acres of grapes, they don't stop for coronavirus. So we've got a big vineyard crew, and we're trying to be really safe about social distancing, but we feel really good about being able to be outside. Rows are strategically 6 feet apart, which is nice. So each of the guys in the vineyard crew can stay safe that way. We're also continuing bottling. We do a lot of bottling in the summer, and we've adjusted some things so we can be a little farther apart, wearing masks, trying to be really safe, and so far so good. We feel really fortunate.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been an interesting time. I would imagine that more of the disruption has happened on the tasting room side, having been closed for, some months.
Yeah, we basically took our energies when we would be hosting folks, which we love to do here at the winery, and just did a bunch of outreach and called all our good customers. And I guess I was really, everybody was home, of course, and it was amazing how people really appreciated our outreach. They ended up ordering wine, which was great for our business. You got the feeling that they were trying to, bet on us. And I feel really fortunate that we, I guess we built up a lot of goodwill over the years, over the last 40, 45 years. And it's nice that our customers saw that and chose to bet on us by buying wine. And it's nice now we're able to host people outside, safe distance. But overall, we just feel like we're really in a fortunate position.
That's great. It's nice that your customers really, it's nice that you stayed in touch with them, and it's nice that they, rose to the occasion and supported you.
Yeah, we're a family business, of course, and, just still my parents and myself own it. And, we also have a great, extended family of longtime employees that are pretty much family, that have been here 20 plus years. And I think a lot of our customers realize that, if we were to be able to continue to keep every full-time person on staff, full wages, full benefits, we needed to rely on all avenues of sales to be able to make that happen. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been great.
So were you able to keep everybody on?
Yeah. So obviously we had staff that we just had no customers at the time, but a lot of them have come back this summer on a part-time basis. Most of those are folks that are doing this as either a retirement gig or a second job. They love getting their wine discount. So
of course,
continue to give them their wine discount. They've been great customers throughout this upheaval. But in general, we just feel really fortunate that, you know, full-time folks with healthcare and full wages, that if we can keep those folks busy doing other things. So some of our sales folks have helped in production. Some of the sales folks that usually do a lot of dinners and traveling to support the brand around the country, they've pivoted to become inside and hosting groups, just because socially distant host groups, it's a little more
Labor intensive.
Happen, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad. Can you tell us the story of your company, your family business, and kind of how you got started, and the key people? It sounds like the people are part of your family. They're around for a long time. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, you know, we essentially, Elk Cove was started by my parents back in the early 1970s, when they were one of the first kind of 10 people that decided to plant grapes and make wine. The first 10 acres put in 1974 was Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, all planted by volunteer labor. We say that's why my parents had a big family, and my 4 brothers and sisters can attest to a lot of summer work here at the winery. And you know, it's just grown slowly over the years. My folks retired about 20 years ago, and I took over for them. And we're really happy to still be able to go forward as a family-owned business. It's always hard in agriculture, and maybe in wine in particular, to be able to go on to the next generation. But we've successfully been able to at least get to the second generation. And I think a lot of that, you know, hats off to my folks who started a great business. But also I've been able to hire and some great people, long-term employees, some real key ones. Travis, who's my vineyard manager, he's been with me for 18 years. And, you know, when he started, we only had about 70 acres of grapes. We're now up to 400. So he's really spearheaded that effort. Heather Perkin, who's my associate winemaker, there's no way I could be able to do all the things that I want to do to make great wine without her efforts, as well as Shirley Brooks, who's been with me for 20 years on the sales side, Rob Varant, who does all our finances and keeps me on track in that way, and just a bunch of other really key people that, like I said, are part of the Elk Cove family.
That's nice. I'm sure that gives you a lot of continuity too, because, you know, there's not a learning curve. They've been with you. They understand the cycle of wine and the business and the ups and downs and all of that.
Yeah, I think that's really key to having consistency, and for me to be able to kind of manage really high quality professionals in their fields and make them better as an owner and manager. That's really key.
Nice. Have you made any changes this last year because of all of the changes, you know, just being shut down and COVID and new requirements for tasting room, all of that? Has that changed any of the ways that you do things, managing anything in the vineyard or anything else?
Well, I think that, you know, there's lots of things that are different this year because of the requirements for social distancing, both in the vineyard and the winery, and then even in terms of hosting people. We've been on a big push to transition to 100% organic farming in the vineyard. So I felt good that we were still able to continue to push forward in that. I'm not sure if we'll be certified. I have somewhat of an aversion to paperwork and all that, but we know how we want to farm, and that's been a great push for us this year. More undervine tilling and things in the vineyard that allow us to be 100% organic in how we farm. You know, we're obviously approaching harvest. You know, we're going to essentially get all of our interns that used to come from far away places. We've had interns from Obviously Australia, New Zealand, France, Italy, Japan, China, South Africa. This year, unfortunately, because of COVID, it's not an international crew. But as soon as they all arrive, we're all going to get tested, create our own little bubble here. It's really key that no one gets sick during harvest, because even in a normal harvest, that's hard. This year, if someone gets sick, it shuts down that pod, and it would be a lot of work and a lot of calling in friends and family to come help us with harvest if we end up with anybody getting sick. So, we're trying to be really safe about how we approach that.
Yeah. So where are your interns coming from? Well, Northwest, West Coast?
Yeah, the Northwest, and folks coming from Colorado and Texas and, California. We do actually have one from BC, so hopefully he'll make it over the border. We're trying to essentially hire more local folks as well, work less hours in an effort to keep everybody healthy. We provide, all meals during harvest as well. So that's been an interesting thing. We've tried to do a bunch of meals this summer and freeze them so that when harvest comes, it'll be a little bit easier. But one of our interns is going to work half-time on the sorting line and half-time in the kitchen. She's a restaurant refugee. So we really appreciate being able to get those folks. And my goal is to have a big crew so that we can spread out, do the work that needs to get done, and cross fingers that no one gets sick.
It sounds like you've got it thought out pretty well in terms of, logistics for that. Good job.
Thanks.
All right. Are you working with a vineyard management company?
So we're not. We do all our own vineyard management. So Travis manages a crew of about, in the summer we have about 35 people out working in the vineyards. We have 15 people full-time year-round that are vineyard employees. And that's great because being full-time year-round employees, they qualify for healthcare, retirement, 3 weeks paid vacation. I feel really fortunate that we have a value-added product that can, garner the profitability to be able to essentially do what we should all be doing, which is healthcare plans for all workers, including ag workers. But unfortunately, in the agricultural sector, for the most part, commodity growing of other crops, there's just not the margin to be able to do that until there's a government mandate or a subsidy to help provide that. They're not able to do it. So being a winery, as long as we can be successful and sell our wine out around the country, we can provide those jobs and full benefits for the folks. Those vineyard guys, we always say, like, if you're going to be a year-round vineyard employee, because it is seasonal, you got to be able to do like one other thing. So right now we're bottling. So our bottling crew are guys from the vineyard, those 15 guys. They'll come in and help with bottling. They help on the sorting line with harvest. They drive tractors. They manage contract crews. We do need to bring in extra workers. And a lot of those guys have been with me for 20 plus years as well.
Wow. That's really cool. And it's really impressive that you're able to provide full benefits for them as well. I mean, that seems unusual in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, because it is so seasonal, and I think the key is to be a fully integrated business where we do our own bottling, we do our own harvesting, we do our own sorting on the sorting table. Basically, you have to find the ability to have year-round work to be able to afford the guys. And we're rewarded because we do that. That's a great thing. But we also are rewarded by having super top-notch workers. They really appreciate their year-round work. And it comes back to us in spades.
That's great. I'm so glad. All right. And then kind of transitioning into your winemaking style, how would you characterize that?
Well, you know, my dad was a winemaker for the first 20 years, and a lot of things I think that he taught me, first and foremost, being a low intervention philosophy in terms of winemaking. And I think I've kind of continued that mantra with a extra emphasis on vineyard sourcing. So really trying to create the wines that I want to create by growing grapes in the right soils and the right climate to make that happen. So in the last 20 years, we've both planted new vineyards and purchased vineyards on the three main soil types in the valley. And that's really allowed me to be able to craft wines that have a great balance of red versus black fruit, with a lot of freshness, bright acidity that comes naturally from the vineyards. I think if you only have one site to work with, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But the beauty of Oregon is within a 15-mile radius, I can get drastically different styles of Pinot Noir to the vineyards and be able to kind of come up with the wines I want to make.
Great. Has your winemaking style changed over the years, maybe in the transition between your father and you?
I think somewhat. I mean, you know, we were both self-taught as winemakers. Obviously, I learned a lot from him. And I learned a lot from my peers as well. I do a lot of tasting, a lot of tasting groups, meetings. Basically, cooperation in the valley is a really high level. And I feel like so many times I might have half the answer, but my buddy down the road has the other half. And if we don't talk, we're not going to come up with the full answer. So it's really key to tasting each other's cellars. I like working with other fruit that other people work with as well. So I do some fruit trading with other wineries like Sokolblosser and Ponzi. I sell grapes to a few buddies, Tony Reinders at Tendril and John Abbott, who was up in Washington at Abea, and now has his own project down here. If I can keep doing that and having them work with vineyards like Mount Richmond or Clay Court, vineyards that I own, having other people work with the fruit allows me to continue to refine the things I want to do in terms of winemaking.
Great. All right. So what qualities would you like your wine to have?
Well, I think, you know, for me, probably the two biggest things that I want to have in wine are concentration of fruit, so depth of flavor, and then also freshness. So good, bright acidity. And, you know, we want our wines to be able to taste great upon release, but also be able to age for Pinot Noir, certainly 10, 15, 20 years. And I feel like people, I don't think they give enough credit in terms of ageability of wine to concentration of fruit, freshness, and I guess complexity, which you get from vine age. I think tannin is kind of people always think, oh, the wine needs to be big and tannic to be an age-worthy wine. And we just haven't really found that to be true with Pinot Noir. We feel like if it has that concentration of fruit and freshness, it'll age really well as be compelling on release.
Nice. All right. So why don't you take me through your selections, and you can, tell me what you think about each of these wines. You know, what are the flavor profiles and the vintage and all of that.
Yeah, happy to. So, you know, I mentioned before that my parents planted Pinot Noir and Chardonnay when they came to the valley. For them, really, Burgundy was the model. I guess when I took over for my dad in the mid-90s, I was much more excited about Alsatian varietals like Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Riesling, Gewürztraminer. So really focusing new plantings and even grafted over some Chardonnay to Pinot Gris. We've had great success with that as a varietal. The one I have now to show you is the 2019 Pinot Gris. So we're just releasing this wine. And the great thing about Pinot Gris is that, you know, it ripens right alongside Pinot Noir. The vines are extremely similar in terms of what they need in the vineyard. It's a great climate to grow them in up here. And in terms of winemaking, I just focus on stainless steel fermentation, really cold, to try to capture aromatics and freshness in the varietal. We finish with a screw cap. I feel like we reserve cork finish for our Pinot Noirs and really these fresh aromatic whites. A screw cap is a great option for retaining freshness. And in terms of the wine, what it tastes like, my feeling is if I can pick at the right moment in the vineyard, I'll get this stone fruit character. It's apricots and peaches and things like that. Those kind of characters are really compelling to me. And then it also, picking in that middle zone really allows for nice bright acidity. The wine's almost dry. It just has just above threshold, about 3 to 4 grams of residual sugar. So it's pretty much a dry wine, but it has freshness of fruit. Again, getting in that stone fruit character. Sometimes Pinot Gris, if picked too early, can be really citrusy and not as interesting. And if it's picked too late, it can verge into real tropical notes. Mm-hmm. I just want to get in that middle ground where it's all about stone fruits.
Great. Should
I go on to the second one?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is our other kind of flagship wine. This is our Willamette Valley Pinot Noir from 2018. And I really often say this Pinot Noir is our kind of benchmark, most important wine, even though it's our lowest price Pinot Noir. It's a blend of all of our vineyard sites put together. It's oftentimes people's first exposure to Elk Cove wine. It also might be people's first exposure to Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. So I take it as a really strong mandate and challenge to make sure this wine has all the things that make Willamette Valley Pinot Noir so great. So certainly freshness of fruit, a lot of dark fruit character, but also some kind of red raspberry high tone fruit as well. Not a huge tannic wine, should be really nice on release. I think this wine in particular being 2018, that was a vintage with quite low yields and small clusters and small berries, which really lead to really great concentration of fruit. And so I think that this one's all about like black cherries, spicy, and because a good portion of these vines that go into this wine are older vines, it has complexity and length on the palate, which is to me a hallmark of a great Pinot Noir.
Nice. I'm just writing all this down. All right, and the final one.
Yeah, so this is a single vineyard wine. This is from our Mount Richmond vineyard, and I chose this because it really highlights the Yamhill Carlton region, which is important to us. Elk Cove was the first vineyard and winery in this Yamhill Carlton AVA, or American Viticultural Area. And we not only have our estate property here, but we've got a few other vineyards in the AVA, including one called Goodrich. And then this one that I am showing you now is called Mount Richmond. This is a vineyard that is really important to me. It was the first vineyard that I bought with my parents back in 1995. I was only 25 years old, but I told my folks that I wanted to be a part of this business for the long run and I wanted to plant a vineyard, and they were very supportive. So we partnered up on the first 100 acres over there at Mount Richmond, and we've since added to that. It's a 330-acre property where we have about 200 acres of vines. It also is where our vineyard headquarters and all our equipment is. It's a great site for Pinot Noir, of course, but also for Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, and Chardonnay we have over there. The single vineyard Pinot Noir comes from the first 10 acres that we planted, all what we call Pommard clone, from cuttings from our Roosevelt vineyard. And eventually we'll start incorporating some of the Dijon clones and other heritage clones that we planted over there. But for now, we're really relying on the old vines because that's where you get complexity and length on the palate, are these old vines. This is 2018, so another really nice ripe vintage. I like Mount Richmond because it really highlights these soils over there, which are marine sediment in origin, and they tend to produce small clusters, small berries, and a lot of dark fruits, especially black cherry. It can be a little more on the kind of structured side with a little more bigger shoulders than some Pinot Noirs out there. But when we blind taste this in groupings of AVAs, for us as well as for other people, they've called this the kind of quintessential Yamhill Carlton wine. So I consider that a compliment.
Nice. All right. Okay, what is your total production?
So we make about 45,000 cases of Elk Cove wines. But of course that's spread out. We sell throughout the United States in restaurants and wine shops, as well as in about 12 export markets. So we're pretty well represented in the Oregon market, but as you get farther away from home base here, it's a little harder to find our wines. But we also have a very active wine club and mailing list, hosting people in our tasting room. We always say, wherever you can find the wines, find it. If you're on the East Coast and if you have a wine professional that you trust, go in and ask for Elk Cove wines. It's a great thing for us to have people have that pull and promote the wines outside of just us here. We also have a sister winery called Pike Road.
I'm familiar with Pike Road.
Yeah, so we have another 25 or 30,000 cases of Pike Road wines, which are a slightly lower price point. I purchase grapes for that from reputable growers around the valley that we've worked with forever. But creating Pike Road has really allowed us to have that sister winery for purchased fruit and for Elk Cove to be 100% estate grown, which is really important for us in terms of my parents' long-term vision and what they wanted. Having control from vine to bottle is what we say is so important for these Elk Cove wines.
Nice. Okay. I think you've answered all my questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us in terms of that would be helpful in updating your listing in the guide?
I can't think of anything. Yeah, we're just happy to be part of it.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I just have a couple of housekeeping things. Thank you so much for being here today. This is fascinating to learn more about your wine.
Happy to do it. Thank you, Carla.